In December of 2018, Cody, the Young Bucks, Hangman Adam Page, they're all leaving Ring of Honor. And the official announcement of AEW's creation happens on Being the Elite. It launches at midnight on New Year's Day 2019. Of course, this web series was created by the Young Bucks. It really did tell the story and help sell the tickets for All In Chicago. And that's where we announce AEW. And it's also announced in the episode the show Double or Nothing. That's going to be the sequel to All In. I like the gambling theme. We know Las Vegas is going to ultimately be the destination, the former home of Halloween Havoc for WCW. I mean, this is probably not a total shock to you because I know there's some connective tissue with Tony Khan and some others, but how exciting was this in hindsight, man, to see the launch of a new company? I think we kind of take for granted that was really just 5 years ago.
Yeah, it's hard to believe, isn't it?
Yeah.
It is for me, for sure. I think those 11,000 tickets sold answered so many questions as it relates to, if you're a promoter, is there a market share that we can tap into that will help make us profitable and help pay the bills? And I thought that's those 11,000 tickets sold. I referred back to that on more than one occasion here. Don't mean to be redundant, but it just proved a lot of things.
Yeah.
It just, it's like, okay, by God, this might work. And then seeing the talents coming in, Cody and Bucks, and of course the great Kenny Omega, gave us pause for great matches. And they were great. They had great matches. They still have great matches. So, and Tony Khan's done a great job of soliciting other talents. And we've done a good job, I think, of home growing some of the talents, the Darby Allens, the Jack Perrys. I got a ton of heat. You remember when I got a ton of heat when I stopped calling Jack Perry Jungle Boy?
Yeah, you started calling him Jungle Jack Perry.
Yeah. Well, he can't be Jungle Boy while he's 30.
Yeah.
You're not the Zebra Kid who was 50. George Bolus was his name. How do I think of that shit? It's beyond me. But anyway, I had a good feeling about things, and I wanted to be a part of it. So Barry Bloom, my agent, who's the agent, he's also now the agent of the Young Bucks, Kenny, and others. I'm forgetting. But I don't get involved in their business, and so they don't get involved in mine. And I got a good agent. Barry Bloom's been down the road with a lot of talents, and I've as a former executive at WWE, I'd worked with Barry on a lot of contracts, so he and I already had a good rapport, and then it just evolved into this AEW deal, and I think we're on our. It seems like we might be on our second or third contract. The latest one I signed was this past spring, and it was for a year. And realistically, well, couldn't you got more time? I could have probably gotten more time, but I also wanted to be fair to Tony. You got a 72-year-old announcer that all of a sudden, for the first time in his life, has these health issues, and I didn't miss work working for Watts or Georgia Championship or NWA or any of that stuff. So I was at the right place at the right time, and I have absolutely zero regrets whatsoever.
You signed that contract on April 3rd, 2019. It's a 3-year contract with AEW, and we know that you're going to be finishing up a new contract that you had signed after Jan had passed with WWE. I assume that was always the holdup, if you will. That maybe is the reason you weren't announced in January. You were still under contract. When did those conversations between your team, Barry Bloom, and Tony Khan's team start? What was that process like to bring you in?
Well, it's I just left it in Barry's hands because being under contract to WWE, the last thing I wanted to do was get sideways with their attorneys and run my tab up and all that stuff. So I just backed away from it all. I didn't I didn't dig too deeply into that situation. It just didn't make any sense. Didn't make common sense. So, yeah, but that's kind of how I handled it. That's why you have an agent. Let them run the interference. Let him cut the deal. And Tony Khan took very good care of me on that scenario. The 3-year deal was for the most money that I'd ever signed a contract for, including any of my deals with Vince. Now I made a lot of money for WWE. I did. I got put in the video games. That earned me more royalty money. So I did really well with Vince and had no ill feelings. It's just that I knew that from my past record there, being replaced and reinstated and been replaced, all that shit, that I needed to figure out plan B. And I thought this was a very viable plan B. And then when the numbers came in from Barry after his negotiations with Tony Khan, I felt very comfortable that we were making the right decision.
Let's talk a little bit about when you make the decision. I mean, you've got an offer, you know that you're going to direct that to Barry Bloom. So the Khan team speaks to the Bloom team and they come to some sort of resolution. They get it to a point where, Barry thinks you'll be happy.
Mm-hmm.
You are happy. You decide you want to move forward.
Right.
I don't know that this happened, but me thinking I know JR, you probably pick up the phone and call the old man and say, "Hey, Vince, here's what we're doing, and just wanted to call and let you know," and talk me through that if and when that did happen.
That never happened.
Okay.
I never had any conversations with Vince whatsoever, because why would I have conversations with him, Connie? Because it was obvious that he wanted to have another announcer out there, one that wasn't old, one that wasn't Southern, one that wasn't chubby. I'm not as chubby today as I was then. So I didn't bother him with it. That's Barry's job. And Barry had a good rapport with Vince, still does, because he represents Paul Heyman and others. So he was in communication with Vince on a quasi regular basis because of the talents that he'd already represented or was representing. So, but I never talked to Vince about it. I just thought it would be smoother just to get the hell out. And once that gig was with AEW was established, and the numbers were, at least they're confidential, but they were real numbers, and Barry did a phenomenal job, and Tony Khan's generosity made it very easy for me to make that decision.